invested in my Sims lives since the year 2000, and you know what? Nothing has changed, even at my big age. During the week, I actually had a look at all my Townie makeovers and reacted to what they look like without my custom content installed, and I have to say it went a little bit better than I thought. But going through these Townies, getting to know them over the years whilst I've been making them over, I've grown really, really fond of them. So today I figured, why not put the Sims 4 packs up against each other in a tier ranking scenario, but instead of judging it just like off the pack like we usually do, I am going to judge these packs based on the Townies that they were shipped with. Basically, I have a lot to say about Sims 4 Townies, and this video gives me a reason to yap about them. We're gonna start off with the Sims 4 base game, where any Sims game starts. Now, I guess base game is an anomaly, considering it did actually ship with 2 worlds, and therefore many Townies, and this might just be nostalgia hitting, but I actually really enjoy the Townies that base game ships with. I think they're really interesting Townies to get to know. I kind of love like the lore of the pancakes. I love that they included obviously some very traditional Townies that if you played the previous games, you all already know and love, even though it is in a completely different timeline. They are now up there for me as like OG Townies. Like, I love them just as much as I love the classics. If we do ever end up like getting a Sims 5 or a future Sims game, I'm actually gonna be severely disappointed if we don't get a different like timeline variation or whatever of the pancakes. Obviously, again, the land grabs and the calientes, but then we also got Johnny Zest, we got the roomies. I just think they're pretty fun. And so I'm actually putting base game up in Motherlode for Townies. There was like, what? 4 in each world, so like 8 different households for you to get to know. Their lore is super fun. I actually don't mind the welcome wagon, even if they bring fruitcake, if it is made up of some base game Townies. Now, Tomarang and Feren are a little weird, considering we do have Townies, the kind of traditional like playable families in the world, but then we also have, I guess, a pool of Townies to pluck from for renting scenarios. I am gonna stick with just like the shipped pre-mades rather than the people that you can move in, just because I do feel like they can kind of give you an unfair advantage, and also not everyone is gonna see like the same ones over and over again, and I can't really remember them. So we have 3 families. We have the Bun Ma household. We have, oh, actually I guess we have 4, because then we have Aunt T. If this was just Aunt T herself, she would be right there in Motherlode. Then we have the Linsaja household and the Kayaputri. Ooh, this is difficult because no offense to the Bun Ma or the Linsad family, but I feel like I haven't really like invested too much time into them, whereas I absolutely love Auntie and the Kayaputri household. This is extremely difficult, but I don't think, and maybe they just haven't had enough time to like worm their way into my little brain that I can't stop thinking about them. Oh, I'm gonna put them in like crumple bottom, which is like my average for now. They might move up, they might move down, depending on how the rest of this list goes. Throwing Together did ship with San Sequoia. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, again, pre-made households here. We have the Robles family, who are kind of like the founders. They're very entrenched in the community. I personally haven't really like paid much attention to the Robles household. I absolutely do love Jay, though. I think this little family is so sweet. Again, I don't really like have much draw to them, but then I absolutely love the Michelsons. I love the lore and the background of the Michelson household. Why is no one holding Orion? Is Orion just like on the floor in their family portrait? I feel like Orion is just like chilling on the floor. I do think the Michelsons Nicholsons are doing an awful lot of heavy lifting. So I'm going to put Growing Together actually in there, and then For Rent is going to go into Grim Reaper. I prefer the Growing Together Townies over the For Rent Townies. Horse Ranch. Oh, is my hatred of this pack gonna carry over to hatred of Townies? Chestnut Ridge with 1, 2, 3, 4 different households. We got Sienna and Flapjack. She's basically the owner of the horse training place. However, doesn't really like have her own stables because that's not a thing that we can have. This is why this pack annoys me. Like, they wrote so much in, gave stuff, but it was stuff that we couldn't actually participate in, so it just felt like it didn't really make sense. We got the Gooseman household, which I do like Don, but I mean, he's just like a sweet old man. The Grove family, who are also related to Sienna, and then the nectar making duo. I'm sorry to say it, but none of them really stand out to me when it comes to Chestnut Ridge. I do apologize to each and every single one of these townies. Therefore, I'm actually gonna put Horse Ranch also into Grim Reaper. I definitely think that is influenced by my saltiness about Horse Ranch in general, just because I feel like there's not much that you can do in that pack. So therefore, I've not really felt like a draw to the townies. I haven't really felt like I really particularly needed to connect with anyone. I much preferred my own characters that I created for Chestnut Ridge and Horse Ranch over the townies that shipped with it. I mean, I would put Cats and Dogs into Tragic Clown purely for Supriya. Supriya is my Eliza Pancakes. There was one particular time in my life where Supriya would show up at any given opportunity. Thankfully, nowadays, because there's a bigger pool of townies, she doesn't really show her face too frequently. It's not like I just get so sick of seeing her anymore. So I have definitely mellowed out. Wait, I already know that Brent and Brent are absolutely gonna carry this on their strong, broad shoulders. We have the Hecking household, the first official gays of The Sims 4. Absolutely love that for them. I actually really like the Delgato kids. Pierce has like somehow wormed his way into my heart, and I'm just like, he is so cute. I can see him like owning a vet rescue or something like that as he gets older. And then there's also Katarina Lynx. So whilst there's only like 3 townie families living here, I do think they are all kind of iconic. But you know what? I have no beef with the Cats and Dogs townies. They're going up into Rosebud, which is shocking. I thought they would be so much lower. In the grand scheme of things, they're just inoffensive. City Living. I don't even need to know who came in City Living. I already know that they are actually my favorites. We're actually gonna rank in the rows as well this time around so that you can full on like see my proper ranking. I love San Myshuno anyway. I absolutely love the world. Also, having apartments meant that this pack could ship with so many different people. And I think that just like adds to the diversity of the city. The creator sim was really diverse, and then obviously the people living in these apartments is really diverse. I love their stories though. Most of all, I love the city living stories. Like, I love how Raj is living with his mum, who is like very critical of his love life and like really just wants him to like settle down and find a nice girl to marry so that he can carry on the family line. And then I imagine like intergenerational play happening in this like apartment if you do choose to go down that route with Raj. Fairly sure the first household that had a pregnant sim in it, so you didn't really know who their kid was gonna be, which I really like. I think Salim Benali is my favorite Sims 4 townie that we have ever had, and it's gonna take a lot for him to be knocked off my top spot. I just love his apartment. I love how it's like run down and he doesn't really care where he's living. He just wants to like write. I do have my headcanons for these townies, obviously. Like in my game, Barco is actually a music producer more so than a comedian. Diego Lobo, absolutely iconic. I'm never gonna say that I dislike him. The Fangs, they're just, every single one of them is perfection. Penny Pizzazz and the Karaoke Legends, they just hit the bullseye with the city living townies. I'm sorry, they're actually I think they are going to remain in their top spot. I don't think there's any competition, and I do apologize to the one that is going to come second, because I also love that. But enough of those spoilers, let's stick with it. Cottage living, Hempford on Bagley. Do I like them, or is it just reminding me of an English village enough for me to pretend that I love these townies enough? No, I do really, really love Moody and Macmillan. Again, another couple that I was so happy to see the elder representation for the LGBTQ plus community. Absolutely love those. The Watson household, I don't know. Even though there is a little bit of drama, like between Rami and the mayor, I just don't really ever feel like there's been any pull for me to particularly like play this household. I don't know what it is, but I just don't really care for them all that much. Not like I do in the same way as like the Pancakes. Maybe it's just because I feel like their storyline is kind of similar, and I'm like, but the Pancakes already, you know, they kind of already own that, I'm not gonna lie. And Celia King, I think her name is. Oh no, it is actually Cecilia. She's just kind of there. I'm shocked. I thought I liked the Henford Townies more than I do. I guess, again, you also have the extra ones when it comes to Henford, so you do have the mayor and her son Rahul, you have the Crumple Bottoms, you also have Kim, who runs the farmer stand, and I think all of those Sims kind of do add up to me really liking the Sims in this pack, but just for the ones that were shipped. I'm so sorry to this man, but I'm gonna put Cottage Living in Crumple Bottom. I do wonder if anyone is gonna be bad enough to be in Tragic Clown. Discover University. Ooh. Might be sooner rather than later. The world of Brightchester. The Fletcher household. I like Cameron. I think he's dead cute. I think he's a little sweetie. We also have the Elderberries. Literally don't care at all. Never have. Probably never will. In my opinion, there's nothing interesting about them. Young love growing into a family. Finally into retirement. Eleanor loves seeing new students appear each term. Ekram isn't always fond. It's basically happy-go-lucky wife, grumpy old man husband, and then there's also their grandson Rowan, who will finish high school and go to university. Like, I'm sorry, but that is not interesting to me whatsoever. The Pleasants were actually reintroduced, which kind of gets my ranking up a little bit. I don't want to do the Pleasants dirty, but like at the end of the day, they're not even in university, you know what I mean? It just kind of felt that they were like, oh shoot, like I don't know if people are gonna really love the Townies that we have in Brightchester. Let's just add in a beloved household. Let's go for the Pleasants. I honestly would have preferred it if these two had maybe just finished uni and they moved back in with their parents. I personally think that would have been a much more fun dynamic. Like either one of their parents, like Mary Sue or Daniel, or maybe they happen to still be together after all of the storm went down in The Sims 2. That would have made the Pleasant household way more interesting. I'm so sorry because I do love Cam and Julia and Becca, but I am gonna put Discover University in Tragic Clown. Eco Lifestyle. Is it gonna be my favorite because I made some of the Townies? Potentially. No, I'm not gonna do a favoritism bias. Evergreen Harbor. We've got the Harris household. In my opinion, probably the family I care about the least when it comes to eco lifestyle. I don't know, like even though their story is quite fun and it does feel like the grandma is running like a greenhouse enterprise on the top floor of her roof, if you know what I mean. And that kind of is why Jeb doesn't really like showing his face, because he doesn't really like to be associated maybe with the Harris family business. I just don't really have an awful lot of love for them. Sterling Rico, I love both of these Sims. I absolutely adore Bess and Jules. They have my whole ass heart. Obviously, I do really love the Greenbergs. I helped make them. We actually didn't make Knox, but Knox is my adopted son as well. Call me a lesbian because I would have adopted Knox too. That's my stinky baby. And then finally we have the Tinkers, who I actually really like the Tinkers. I do think they're a cute little household. So whilst the Harris do bring them down, still a pretty strong cast in my eyes. Ooh, I'm gonna put you in Rosebud. I prefer you over Cats and Dogs. I'm sorry, but if Cats and Dogs is in Rosebud, then Eco Lifestyle is also gonna make it up there. Get famous. I want to be famous. Vanessa Young, love her. She's just a little cutie patootie. I love how she's just trying to make it big in this world. Absolutely adore the Bailey Moon household. I think they're so interesting. Honestly, Octavia deserves better than Thorn Bailey Moon. And then I also really like Judith Ward as well. Even though it's a small world and therefore not many townies in here, same amount as Cats and Dogs though, which is wild considering Brindleton Bay feels bigger. You are also going in Rosebud, and you know what, I think I actually do prefer them over the Cats and Dogs townies. Get Together, yep. Second place, which is shocking because I really thought Get Together might have taken the cake, but then I looked at like the City Living townies, and I just think because there's so many of them and they're all so different from one another and they all have like their own little stories, I just absolutely love the City Living townies. Get Together is such a close second though. This is hilarious because when I made that video the other day looking at like my townies without their custom content on, I said that Get Together was gonna be my top spot. But I think there are just some Sims in here that I don't care about as much as individuals, whereas I care about every single individual in San Myshuno. So probably Mila Munch, like she's very forgettable, but I absolutely love the boys. Not gonna lie, I did think that these two were sisters for the longest time, but they aren't. I don't really pay attention to Moira that often, which sounds really mean. I just don't think like I really ever interact with Moira that much, which is hilarious because I do have an awful lot of Sims who are like into gardening, so you would have thought that I would have been coming across her very frequently. But I love the girlies. The Bro household, I mean, I could live without them. However, I absolutely adore the Burrs. I love the Party House household so much. And then we also have the Villarreals and the Bjergsons. They are iconic Sims 4 townies. I do think Get Together kind of put Sims townies on the map. Like City Living, it was kind of the what? Was City Living the second expansion of The Sims 4? So it was still kind of like finding its footing a little bit, whereas Get Together, it was like, oh my god, like we have arrived. We are in The Sims 4 and we haven't seen a world like it since, which is really sad. But I'm definitely gonna stick with my ranking of it just being slightly lower than City Living for those Sims who I maybe don't care about as much as the City Living ones. High school years, ooh. Is it bad that I can barely remember? No, actually, I do remember. There were some very cool teenagers. The Gen Z pack, to be exact. We had the Prescotts, who to me are the least interesting family, which is hilarious considering her mum is literally the head teacher and her granddad works as the caretaker. So they're probably the ones that you come across the most, but I love the Harjo household. And then I also really like the Price household. I love the fact that Kevin is living with them as like an exchange student. Only 3 households though, which is quite shocking. I always think that there's more in Copperdale, probably because like you attend the high school and there's like a bunch of teenagers there from a bunch of different worlds. High school years, you are going into Rosebud, but I don't think you're as high up as Get Famous. I think I prefer the Get Famous stories of the townies more than I do high school years. Island Living is one of those packs that I always kind of wish they had pushed the townies a little bit more. Like, I love them all, but they just didn't take it like far enough. I would have loved it if they had lent more into like the evil schemes of these two, maybe. I do think they could have pushed maybe these being self-appointed ambassadors and being like, you know what, these are our golden years. We're gonna open up like a really nice like beach resort like on this beach that's like super fancy, and Then eventually down the line, you could have had people like charged for using that beach. Try to kind of gentrify the islands a little bit, whereas you would have like the other locals being like, no, 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 you absolutely can't do that. Like, you are gonna hurt our fishing population, you're gonna hurt our mermaid population. Like, what the hell do you think you're playing at? I really do think they could have done a lot more with the Townies, because for the rest of them, it just kind of feels like they went like, oh, this is a family, their generations have been here for like years and years, which I fully appreciate for sure, obviously, but I wish that they kind of had that tension written in. Feel as much as a connection as I wish I did with these Townies. And then obviously there is the one and only Kealoha household, which we all know who I'm talking about here, but Makoa is one of my faves, it has to be said. Firmly rooted in island tradition to honor the past while supporting the bright future. I feel like they didn't do enough. Like, you had the island spirits, but that was really about the only thing that you could do to kind of show off those deep connected roots. So I guess kind of like Horse Ranch, the lack of stuff to do in the pack and trying to tie that into what they actually made the stories is quite difficult to do. I'm gonna put them in Crumple Bottom though. I think they're the bottom of Crumple Bottom. Snowy Escape, on the other hand, I so dislike the pack. I don't think it's a very good pack at all. However, I really, really love the Townies, and I know that that is just behind Rosebud when it comes to Townies. The Nishidaki household, to be fair, these two, I am so sorry, but I do pay the most attention to Kaori just because I kind of love the Romeo and Juliet situation between her and, why can I not think of his name, Kiyoshi. And then I also love the strain between like their marriage when it comes to Naoki and Megumi. And then I just love the Akiyama household. And again, I love the tie between Kato and Megumi. I love all of the ties. I think they did the lore so well between these Townies, and personally I love it when they show off like their personalities and like interpersonal relationships, and I think that very much helps Snowy Escape, and that's why it's sat just after Eco Lifestyle. It actually might be ahead of Eco Lifestyle. I think it is. I think that is the top of like Rosebud for me. It hasn't reached the level quite of iconicness that these lot have, but it is way up there. My Wedding Stories, who the hell came with My Wedding Stories? And don't say Faz, because he's not technically a Townie. Cam and Dom weren't even Townies, which was such a sore disappointment. You got the Markovich household, who are just like running in the wedding industry. And then I guess there's kind of like the former lover in Hector, but that's never really like made sense to me all that much. Then you have the Laurent household. They're basically just two families who are in competition to host the most amount of weddings. There actually will not be a wedding as there is no love here, because that's going even worse than Discover University. At least Discover University had the Pleasant twins. Limmerbrook, I already want to apologize. It's such a small world, obviously. We also do have the Sages, but technically they're not like full Townies, and I haven't really based anyone else off those other Townies, so I'm not gonna base these off the Sages. Charm household, you know what? You might be called Charm, but you have no charm appeal to me. I have never ever cared about the Charm family. I'm so sorry. The only ones I really do care about are Minerva and then Gemma. I don't really care for these two like at all. It might be the fuck-ass Bob that has turned me off. However, I do quite like Grace and Tomax. Been roommates ever since they first became spellcasters, have day jobs but magic is their main focus, got friendly competition going to see who will become an adept spellcaster. They're just a little boring. I like them. They're, again, very inoffensive, but just a little bit boring for such like a magical pack. I feel like they really used up all of their creative juices actually on the Sages. I'm sorry, but I'm honestly gonna have to put you maybe like top of Grim Reaper, but You're not very good. Strangerville. Oh, Jess. I mean, I can't put Jess any lower than a motherload. I Jess. So let's actually check out Strangerville. It's not that I don't care for Roswell. I just don't find these as interesting as like characters. Like, I genuinely think he could have been just like a single man, and I would never have known that he was even meant to have had a wife. Meredith, I feel, has like absolutely nothing going for her. I am so sorry to say that. I absolutely love the eclectic arts household. Probably one of the most underrated households in the game, especially now that we have like so many creative hobbies. I love my little Nepo babies. I don't care that they're trust fund babies. I think it's so funny that these three really rich kids were like, you know what, we're gonna go get our creative juices flowing in this really weird ass like sideways town, and then there was like an alien invasion and they all got high off plants. Like, that just sounds like rich baby lore. They are my trust fund babies and they can do no wrong. I absolutely love George Cahill. He is a sweetheart. And then I also love the Sigwards. Strangerville, not gonna lie, popped off with the Townies. I swear the alien themed deserty worlds always know how to do Townies correctly. They're going into Motherlode even above base game. I was thinking maybe Rosebud, but I love them, Your Honor. Vampires is a little boring. I guess you have Caleb and Lilith, and then also just like Vladdy Daddy. So 3 different vampires. Whilst I love them all, it's just like, okay, you're vampires. You know, he's the master vampire, and then you're like the 2 vampire siblings. And even though you're hot, don't think I'm gonna give it to them. I'm gonna go for Crumple Bottom. I'm actually gonna put them below Growing Together. I think I prefer them over the Cottage living Townies. Don't come for me. I can't believe Cats and Dogs are so high. I'm looking at this. I am gobsmacked. I'm just as shocked as you. Werewolves. Oh, now what counts for werewolves? Because I haven't been saying that the ones who like don't live in the world don't really count towards it. But there's barely anyone who lives in the werewolves world. Like, technically, I think we should count Lou and Rory, considering they're in the like opposing pack, even though they technically don't have a home. It's werewolves. I feel happy to rebel against my own rules. I mean, I absolutely love Lily, Jacob, and Christopher, and I will count the other pack. I'm doing it. I'm not counting like the bartender, but Lou and Rory, I feel personally should definitely be included. I'm sorry, you're probably all raging as much as a werewolf is right now. They're going into Rosebud, but it's just like, where in Rosebud do I want them to sit? I think in the middle of Eco Lifestyle and Get Famous. I really, really love them. They're all individual. They all kind of have like their own stories of like why they found the pack and how they found the pack. I love the kind of depth that they went to. Even like having Rory be a kid of Christopher and then like breaking off and creating their own pack. Love that. Lovestruck, I am so sorry, but I can barely even remember who shipped with Lovestruck. I do like the Nadir household. Again, they're kind of like the Pancakes. They've got like this strange relationship between each other. Theirs is one of the longest family bios. Like, the fact that there's only 2 of them and their family bio is that long is actually quite impressive. The dynamic datas, this just really felt like a way to shoehorn in some like single Sims that your Sims could date. But I really like the Lopez household. I like the dynamic between all 3 of these Sims. I like that Monica doesn't particularly get on too well with Carlos. This is tough. Are they bad enough to be in Grim Reaper? I don't think they are. But I also do think they're at like the bottom end of Crumple Bottom. Ooh, we only have 2 more left. We have Life and Death and Businesses and Hobbies, which in turn are the 2 newest worlds that we got. Again, just kind of a way to like shoehorn in some ghosts. I don't find anything particularly appealing about either of them. Even the regular Gomez household, like the only one I really have interest in is Zelmira, who is their kid. And then there's the Ether household, who definitely are one of my favorites, but I absolutely love that they brought back the Spectres. I don't want to let like nostalgia steer me, but I do think bringing back Olive Spectre and introducing like Nyan before Nyan became Nervous Subject is really cool. And I also love the new edition of Lane. I just don't think they are enough to warrant me putting these like anywhere close to the top of my ranking. So therefore, I am going to put them, ooh, this is hard, in between Cottage Living. Not gonna use the ones who are kind of like extra townies that you see out and about. Urbane, absolutely love them. You know what? This is a sleeper pack when it comes to townies. I really didn't think that I was going to have loads of love towards families that were included in Businesses and Hobbies. Maybe it is because you kind of have that like seeing them in work element as well. So it really feels like you can get to know all aspects of these Sims. But I think that Nia and her daughter are so cute. I absolutely love that Lorato is like super into the stars and astronomy. Koopman's probably the least interesting to me personally. I'm just like, yeah, again, you're a couple that's going through like relationship trouble. I feel like they need to just like spice up the couples a little bit. I think there needs to be some different stories going on with the couples, and I know they can't really like get too deep into some like themes and stuff like that, but I do feel like you could tell the story of like Sims like really trying for a child and like not really being able to achieve their dreams with that, and like that's adding tension rather than just like, hey, this one's a flirt or they just have like a strained relationship because they've like fallen out of love with each other. And then the Loden household, I like them, but again, they don't really like stand out to me, but all round, I do think really enjoyable townies. So therefore, Business and Hobbies, I think you're going into Rosebud, but whereabouts in Rosebud are you going? You're going to slot in right there between Werewolves and Get Famous. There we have it. Journey to Batuu, I guess, again, doesn't really have townies. You can't live there, but you can interact with some of the people. You can interact with Ray and Vi Maradi. However, they're not the most interesting, are they? So they're actually going right at the bottom of, no, you know what? Sorry to do it, but they're a little bit more interesting now. I'm going to put them in the end. And there we have it. There's my complete tier ranking of every single pack that we have for The Sims 4 based on the townies that were shipped with that pack. Can't believe there were actually a few surprises in that, even for myself. I thought I had this down. I thought I knew what all of these, where they were going to be, because I was like, hello, I've spent so many hours over the past couple of years, like, giving my all to these townies, and I do think some of these were helped by the fact that I have my own like headcanons and I have changed some people's jobs and like I imagine them doing other things, and it does feel like a lot of them have grown on me as I've been doing those makeovers. But at my core, I do still think that a pack and its themes and its gameplay does kind of affect how I feel personally about townies. I mean, Island Living and Horse Ranch are the perfect examples of that. I just wish that they had more stories and more like interpersonal dynamics and relationships for those townies based on the stories that I wish you could tell actually within those packs. But I would absolutely love it if you lot could let me know down in the comments, is there any that you like are absolutely like, that is so true, bestie, you got that so spot on? Or if you are the complete other foot, maybe you have like my wedding stories in your motherload, which I would personally be shocked at, but who knows? I'm not here to yuck anyone's yum. If, you know, they are the townies for you, they're the townies for you. And I'm not going to disagree with that because we all connect with these townies in a different way. Or are you just the total opposite and you're like, I actually have no love for these townies whatsoever? I am actually going to leave the tier list that I use for this down below. If you want to partake in it, I'm just EnglishSimmer over on both Blue Sky and Twitter. If you want to send me your personal tier ranking for what you would do if you were basing this off the townies that were shipped in those worlds that came with those packs. Thank you all so much for tuning in. City living on top always. It's why the skyscrapers are so high. I appreciate you all so much for tuning in, and I will speak to you all in my next one. Bye now.